You hear me at the back? Excellent. I know what you did last semester is sort of my tagline, and I really do in many respects. For example, this gentleman. Right. One of the things that we've learned is that wherever we use an electronic system, we leave electronic footprints. My name is Andrew Eberhard, and appropriately, I guess I'm from the Information Systems and Operations Management Department in the Business School. And I'm a bit of a data junkie. I love tracking things. I wear my devices, I log my steps, my weight, my height, everything, right? And I log when I arrive in the building, I log when I leave it out, when I go home. So this was sort of a natural thing for me, is to look at what my students were doing, because we can actually track an incredible amount of data about them based on the different systems they're using here at the university. For example, we could even track where they are on campus just via their wireless devices. They plug into the network. We know where the access points are. We know they have to log in to use the network. So theoretically, we could track even where you are at a given time. That comes in very handy during lecture times. You look up and, shadows, not good. Right. So we have a whole bunch of different sources of data. In my course, I've got, well, for most of us, we have demographic data and GPAs and things like that we can look at from student services online. All of our students do DELNA assessments, that's the language, English capability. We've got lecture recordings. We've heard lecture recordings quite a bit today. We can tell if they've actually clicked on the links. We can't tell anything else, but we can tell if they've clicked on the links at least. If we use tools like Piazza and PeerWise, you can look at the various activities that students engage in there. And of course, we've got Canvas. We've always been able to look at marks, for example, even in Cecil, but Canvas actually provides us a lot more data about what students are doing. We can tell what they're clicking on. Theoretically, we can tell how long they spend on a page and all this kind of things. Anything a student does in Canvas gets captured by Canvas. Now, Canvas have provided a data service to universities that will allow you to interpret all that and look at it. Well, it's really just a feed that they give you. And I went along to the Canvas conference this year, and I was watching these people. I went to every analytics session I could find just to see what people were doing. And everybody's just exploring, because it's all very new, right? And one presenter showed these wonderful graphs of how long students were spending on a page and the map through, and then he said, and I'd like to thank my technical team who are helping me with this. And 10 people stood up. And I went, whoa. Right? And he said, 5 of them couldn't make it. And I went, damn. So it's just me, so I can't do all of that. Also, we don't actually have access to the Canvas data service as academics yet because they're still working through some of the issues about providing us with a data feed. So what we do have, though, are the reports that we can pull straight out of Canvas. And so we can pull out marks and access data. And so I've done a bit of that. Now, to get the access data, that's me, you click on People, and there's a little button in the People page in Canvas, and you can see an access report. One of the other things that they said at the Canvas conference, the way to get your administration to fund analytics research is to tell them they can spy on what the staff are doing, right? In America, apparently that's a thing. They mentioned one professor had spent 7 minutes in the semester on the system, and that was for an online course, so it was very efficient. Now, this is my one, and I'm putting up my report here just because I didn't want to show a student's report, and it will tell me quite a few things. For example, the course homepage, that's my default link in. This semester, I've apparently gone in there as of yesterday morning when I took this screenshot 752 times. That's about 8 times a day, I guess, across the semester. Seems about right, because I'm in there all the time and I tend to shut things down because I'm a bit security conscious. And I've got 1,000-odd students, so I'm getting lots of queries, I'm looking at things, I'm updating things. However, it says there I've only clicked on the Marks tab 30 times in the whole semester. I've done that in one day, I think. So some of this data is a little iffy. The other thing that's a little iffy about the data is it doesn't capture mobile data. So if somebody's using a mobile device, using one of the Canvas apps, how many people here have actually installed the Canvas app? Yeah? Well, that doesn't get captured. And I know a lot of my students use that because I asked, right? So in my pretty pictures and stuff that I'm about to show you, there's no mobile data. And I suspect some of the data is a little iffy. How many people use blockers for software tracking, so people can't track what you do, like ad blockers or Google Analytics blockers? I do. I unblocked for this semester, so I'd have something to show. But normally, I try and hide all traces on the web. Not because I'm doing dodgy stuff, it's just the way I am. So when you run this report, it gives you screeds of data. Right? This is just for me. If I did this for a student, I'd get the same. I've got 1,000 students. I don't have time to look at every single student's report. So what we did is my colleague Ron, are you here? There he is at the back. Buy him a coffee. He's well worth it. He created a little tool for us that would allow us to pull out class lists and section lists and group membership lists and things. And it's a Canvas tool, and if you go to our tinyURL Clear Fellows, you can actually download it. Does anyone here use that tool? Yeah, there's a few people know what I'm talking about. That was really useful because we couldn't get that kind of data out of Canvas originally. Then another chap called James Jones, he created a tool that would pull all those access reports out of Canvas and put them into a spreadsheet for you. Ron kindly added the code for that tool into his Canvas tool. And so when you install our ISOM Canvas tool, it adds this little button to Canvas which says Download Access Report. And that gives you data. Lovely, lovely data. So I'm going to spend, I think I've got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to spend all that 10 minutes just walking you through line by line what this... No. Right. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. So one of the things here is that context is quite important, right? Every course is different. If I look at the data for my course, it probably has meaning just for me, not necessarily for you. So for example, if students click on a page, does that matter? If a student spends a minute on a page or 10 minutes on a page, does it matter? If it's got a 20-minute video on it, maybe. If it doesn't, maybe not, So you've got to bear that in mind when you're looking at what I'm showing you. So I've got some questions that I want to ask you before I show you the answers. First one, how many people think there's a relationship between a student's grade and how many times they visit Canvas? Yeah, we all sort of think that. How many people know that? Hey, you've seen my presentation practice, right? Okay, so one of the things you might also notice is I'm a bit technology averse in a sense, in that when I'm presenting, I don't like to use all these electronic things because they just tend to go wrong in large classes. So I'm just going to use show of hands. How many people think here that the times there's a relationship between the grade and when they first access Canvas? Yeah, I would think that as well. Did the A students do more practice quizzes than the D students? Well, I think we all think A students work harder. Who watches the lecture recordings? Would you be interested in knowing that? I think so. And does a student's Delna score or rating make a difference? Well, let's have a look. Let me just quickly hide while I change so I don't reveal the answers too quickly. Oops. See, this is why I don't like technology in class. Hang on. Option P. Haha, that's better. All right, this pretty picture here is quite hard to understand, right? What I did here was I took the number of times a student visited the home page for my course as a proxy for how many times they came in. Right? Along the left, we've got grade grouping. So the greens are the A's, the lighter greens are the B's, the sort of orangey yellow is the C's, And down here are our repeat customers, the Ds, right? And, so does that answer your question? Can you look at that and tell me anything? Well, maybe not. So if I chunk it a bit, let's just look at A's, B's, C's, and D's. Did the A's look at more than the B's? I don't know. Heard some weird noise. B's more than the C's? Maybe. How about the D's? Yeah, I think so. What I particularly like, actually, is who is my champion? 414 visits in one semester. That's pretty good, right? And who's my other champion? 0 visits. Oh, no, 1 visit, right? This student did 1 visit the whole semester. Anyone surprised they got a D, probably a D minus? I don't think so. When I look for significance, though, not really a lot there. What this tells me, I'm not going to explain the stats behind it, but if I just interpret it for you, there's no significant difference between A's and B's, no significant difference between B's and C's, no significant difference between C's and D's, but there is a significant difference between the D's and the B's and the A's, right? So it does make a bit of a difference, but at the margins, not really. What could I do with that information? I don't really know, right? Okay, I know something, but maybe tell them click the buttons a bit more. Maybe that'll help, right? I tend to think that's sort of maybe a proxy for engagement. Who knows? All right, my next question was, when they first access Canvas, does that make a difference? Well, this is the picture. Along the top, I have date, right? And along here, same again, all the grades. And it's very hard to tell looking at this. When did semester start? This is semester 1 data because I don't have semester 2 yet. Anyone remember? I can't remember. Well, I can remember because I looked it up, right? Fortunately for me and my data, semester started 1st of March. Well, my first class was 1st of March. So when I collapse it a bit by month, February means they accessed the course before the class started. March, that column there, means they accessed the course after the class started. And this tells me something, well, it looks very pretty, doesn't it? Straight up, straight down. There seems to be a relationship. Let me chunk it. Well, before I chunk it, remember that champion who had 1 view? That's that person. They first accessed the course in June, on the day of the exam, right? For those of you who watch the news and read the Herald, I no longer do, you may recall there was a course that had a problem with the exam, and that was my course, unfortunately. They printed out the wrong exam. So I think this person said, let me log in and check, can I maybe fluke this? And maybe no, right? If I chunk it a bit more, A students, well, if I look at the data here, 70% of A students accessed Canvas early, right? 73% of the failing students waited till at least the day that the course started before entering at Canvas. Now, can I do anything with that? Maybe. Right? I can try a few things, and I have tried a few things. I don't know the results yet, but I'm experimenting, right? One of the things I did was I moved some of my assessment earlier, and I also, for semester 2, I published my course earlier as well, because I thought maybe if I make it available a bit earlier, they'll get bored during the holiday and click in. I also sent out a few more welcome emails, because every time you do something, hopefully they will look at it. Although I suspect some negative part of me says those D students don't even read my emails, but I'm sure that's not true. All right, my next question. How am I doing for time? Not much. I'm going to have to go quick. All right, number of practice quizzes attempted. Now this, you can see a definite trend, right? In my course, we've got optional quizzes. They count no marks, right? But you can do them, and they're good practice for the test and the exam. If I chunk it again, right? My A students did all 6. 40% of them did, and these guys didn't, which indicates, well, if you do some work, maybe you get a better mark. But what about these guys? You know, they did them all. Well, it's maybe 1 or 2 students, but there's a few more here. they did work, but it still didn't work for them. So I went and looked a bit closer. The A students clicked the quiz, answered all the questions, got the feedback. The D students, they just clicked the quiz, looked at the questions, didn't attempt them, and left, right? So that tells me something. And this I'm going to actually tell my students, that if you actually do it, you tend to do better. I mean, we know that, but at least I'll have evidence. Number of lecture recordings, I'm getting signal from my next presenter that I need to speed it up. Number of lecture recordings makes no difference, right? There's no statistical difference. Looks like D's watched, this down here is 0, but there's no relationship. About 25%, I think, didn't watch anything overall. Makes no difference. There's nothing. I can't find anything. What I can find is that the A's tended to watch them throughout the semesters, the D's all at the end. Day of the exam. Right? I think they had them playing overnight while they, yeah. Now, this one, for me, was a little saddening. This is DELNA. For those who don't know, DELNA is Diagnostic English Language Needs Assessment. All students have to do it. And it tells you basically how good their English is, I guess. If you want to get an A+ in my course, you really need good English. We have a lot of writing, and it's a bit sad to me that the people who were at risk didn't really get A+. So what this shows, let me chunk it, it's a bit easier to see. The people who didn't do DELNA at all, well, they mainly failed. The ones who did they did the test. The test is a diagnosis. If you get told, if it's a bit iffy or borderline, I think you get told that you need to do further investigation. The ones who didn't do the investigation are this column. The ones who followed up, did the diagnosis and got some help, is this column. This is the most important one for me. Tells me I need to follow up with these guys who are not doing their DELNA diagnosis, because it seems to be that the help that we offer with language helps them pass. And yeah, I think that's a big takeaway. And let's not worry about that one. We're out of time, I think. Am I out of time? Yep, I'm out of time. Okay, so one last thing. If you're interested in this kind of thing, buy me coffees. I will spend lots of time with you. As long as it takes me to drink my coffee, then you just buy me another one. Right, go to the EdTech Hub. We've got some videos on here. We're doing a few other projects that there are videos around analytics. And also, if you've got some further questions, don't forget tinyurl.com/clearfellows. Thank you, folks. Where's Tanya?